Hi! This lesson I planned as a little revision on the modal verbs and the semi-modal verbs to sum up what we have learned in the previous lessons. If you haven't seen those lessons, it would be better to first watch them and then to return to this video. Alternatively, you can start with this video to test yourself and to see what grammar you should revise. In the previous 9 or 10 videos, we worked with modals, semi-modal verbs, and modal phrases. So this is what we are going to revise with the help of this short exercise. The task is to correct the mistake. So each of these sentences that you are going to see on the screen contains a mistake. I suggest that you write down the sentences that you will now see on the screen and do the exercise yourself, and then we'll go through each of these sentences together. Here are the sentences. You can pause the video or you can take a screenshot, but it's always better to write down all the exercises that you do. It's just isn't very efficient to do the exercises on your computer. Believe me or not, there is some magic. When you type using your keyboard, when you work with the screen of your computer, it's less effective than when you write exercises with your hand in a notebook. You have to write a lot in order to master the language. Okay, I believe you have written down those sentences. Let's now see what are the mistakes in each of them. The first sentence, you should to eat less fast food. You have a terribly unhealthy diet. Of course, we cannot use to, because as you know, we use all the modal verbs in English with the bare infinitive. Should must be followed by the first form of the verb eat. We use modal verbs with the bare infinitive, that is without the particle to before the verb that follows your modal. You should eat less fast food. Okay, I don't know if this time of the day will suit him. What we should change here is this will. The sentence should be, I don't know if this time of the day suits him. You probably already know that we cannot use will in conditional clauses, but this is not a conditional clause. It's an object clause. I don't know what. I don't know if this time of the day suits him. There is a rule that enables you to use will in object clauses, but only when it expresses a modality. In this case, will does not express a modality. Here we are just talking about the future. I don't know if this time suits him. I will know that when I ask him. Will does not express modality here. It does not express willingness or desire. Compare the sentence to this. I don't know if he will agree. I don't know if he is willing to agree. I don't know if he has a desire to agree, right? That's an absolutely different situation. In our example number 2, will doesn't express any modality. Okay, the next sentence is, they shall go to the Caribbean islands for their vacation this summer. What's wrong? Obviously, we cannot use shall because our subject is they, and we speak about the future. We can use shall to speak about the future only with the first person singular and the first person plural, that is with I and we. So if we change the subject to we, shall will be possible. We shall go to the Caribbean islands for their vacation this summer. Otherwise, we shall say they will go to the Caribbean islands. Will helps us to express a situation in the future. Okay, number 4, I didn't used to eat seafood. Now I can't imagine my week without fish. We cannot say did and used in one sentence like that. So we should change the form of the verb use. We should use the first form because we have didn't. Used to is a semi-modal verb, and I have recorded a separate lesson about the 4 semi-modal verbs of the English language. You can check that in the description below, or you can follow the link above. What we should say here is I didn't used to eat seafood. Use functions as any other verb of the English language, which takes the ed ending in order to form the past simple tense. And this semi-modal used to only exists in the past simple tense. So when you have a negative sentence, I didn't, you should treat it just the way you treat any other verb, not a modal verb, yeah, in the language. That is, you drop the ending ed. I didn't use to eat seafood. That means that in the past I didn't have such a habit. Yeah, in the past that wasn't a habitual situation for me. Again, you can check the details on how, where, when we use the structure used to in that separate video I have already recorded. Okay, the next sentence. You'd better drink your hot chocolate. It might cool down pretty fast on such a dreary day. Might is incorrect here because might expresses a hypothetical situation. So we should use may instead. It may cool down pretty fast on such a dreary day because it's just not a hypothetical situation. It's what actually will happen eventually because the day is dreary, that is wet and cold, and your hot chocolate eventually will become a cup of cold chocolate. When we speak about may and might and the difference between these two, might is used to express something less probable. Compare it to the sentence, I might see him tomorrow if he is in the office. I might see him tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know whether he is in the office. I don't know anything about tomorrow, so I might see him. That might be a situation. Yeah? But in here, we know the conditions. Yeah, and we know that it's inevitable that the drink, little by little, will get cold. I hope that's clear. Let's move to the next 5 sentences. Sentence number 6. James wasn't among the guests at our aunt's dinner. Consequently, he can't have told Alice our news. So what's wrong here? Can't is incorrect because we should say couldn't. He couldn't have told Alice our news. We know that can't and couldn't can be used together with the perfect infinitive to speak about something that we do not believe in, to express disbelief, yeah, or doubt in the past. But what's wrong with this sentence? Why do we need to use couldn't here, not can't? Though both can't have and couldn't have can express disbelief or doubt, couldn't have may also express physical inability to do something in the past, while can't have done something only expresses your disbelief. It's usually used in emphatic sentences to show your attitude to the situation, not to express somebody's physical inability to do something in the past. So what's here? Here we have a situation where we are obviously talking about the person's inability to tell something to somebody in the past because this person wasn't even there, wasn't in that situation or in that place. So we're talking about physical inability to do something, and that's the thing that only couldn't have done can express. He couldn't have told Alice our news because he was not there. When we went through passport control, we must have told the officer what the purpose of our visit to Germany was. This sentence with the modal verb must sounds very strange because your interlocutor will understand you this way. We probably told the officer what the purpose of our visit to Germany was. But how can that be? Don't you know what you did or what you didn't, right? So we should replace must have told with had to tell. We had to tell, yeah? I see some students struggle with this. Must expresses obligation in the present, and consequently, you may think, okay, to express obligation in the past, I will add the perfect infinitive to must, and this way I'll transfer this meaning to the past. In a manner similar to could, when it expresses probability, yeah, we can say it could be so or it could have been so, yeah, in the past. But that doesn't work with must. As you know, must does not exist in the past. So we have to use a substitute, have to, which is in the past, of course, had to. So to express obligation in the past, we must say had to. We cannot say must have done something, because must plus the perfect infinitive has a different meaning. It means probability, not obligation. So to express probability of something in the past, you would say must plus the perfect infinitive of the verb that you need. It's similar to might have done something and could have done something, but must have done something is much stronger. Yeah, it expresses much higher probability. You would only use that to speak about situations in which you are pretty sure. So, okay, we had to tell the officer what the purpose of our visit to Germany was. I would have started to study English years ago if I'd known how much I would need it. What's wrong here? It's pretty easy, right? We cannot use had because we have already discussed that today and in the previous videos. Would is a modal verb and it should be followed by a bare infinitive. That is the infinitive that does not have the particle to. I would have started. So we use the perfect bare infinitive here, and I want to stress that we have 4 different infinitives in the active voice in English. So that is to do something, to be doing something, to have done something, and to have been doing something. And here we have the perfect bare infinitive. It's easy to remember if you tell yourself that after a modal verb, I must not use neither the particle to nor the past form of a verb. Yeah, I must only use the first form of the verb that follows the modal verb immediately. Yeah, that goes right after the modal verb. I would have started to study English years ago if I had known how much I would need it. His French left much to be desired. Nevertheless, he could find a decent job that he really liked. What's wrong with this sentence? Could. Could expresses a general physical ability in the past. That's not what we need in this sentence. In this sentence, we want to stress that the person did something in the past. He was successful in finding a decent job. And to express that, we would use managed to. He managed to find a decent job that he really liked. Again, you can watch the video on periphrastic modals, and there I explain the difference between manage to, be able to, can, could, how we can use them in different tenses and different situations. Please check that in the description below. And the last sentence, I can't help but watching that video over and over again. That might be a tricky one because that's an idiomatic expression. We should say, I can't help but watch. I can't help but watch that video. Or we can say, I can't help watching that video over and over again. So these 2 expressions, can't help but do something with the bare infinitive, and can't help doing something with a gerund, have very similar meanings. I can't help but do something means that I don't see how I can not watch the video. This is something that I find necessary to do or very tempting to do. I can't help watching that video over and over again means that I cannot stop. I watch it again and again and again and again. You're in a somewhat different phase in the second case. I can't help watching that video over and over again. He or she is already watching it and is unable to stop. Okay? I hope you didn't make any mistakes in this exercise. If you still have any doubts or you need to refresh some information on the modal verbs, you can rewatch the videos on this channel. This was the last video on modal verbs so far. We'll proceed with different topics in the nearest future. I hope this video was useful. I hope this exercise was useful. Leave your questions down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and see you in the next lesson.